The Committee on Education and Workforce will please come to order. A quorum is present. Right, Mark?
Yes.
We are the quorum.
We are unanimous.
Unanimous quorum. Without objection, the chair may recess the committee at any point. I would like to thank Vincennes University for hosting today's hearing. It's great to be at an institution that is educating tomorrow's leaders in the fields of firefighting, manufacturing, workplace safety, and mining. Places where there are actual jobs that we certainly need. Today's hearing will examine the U.S. mining industry and ways we can improve the industry for both miners and mine operators. Under the Trump administration and Republican leadership in Congress, there's opportunity for mining to grow and continue delivering for communities like this one. America's mining industry is at a turning point. Last year, President Trump issued 3 executive orders aimed at strengthening domestic mining production. There were critical steps to ensure energy independence for the nation. The Department of Labor and this committee are also taking steps to remove burdensome policies that create regulatory landscape that allows mining operations to grow. Acting on these executive orders, the Department of Energy recently announced nearly $100 million in funding as part of its Mine and Future initiative, with $80 million going toward the development and commercialization of advanced mining technology. This initiative recognizes the innovative approaches being taken in the mining industry, where some of the most advanced technology is being used to increase production efficiency and reduce worker exposure and risk, even as we had the privilege of viewing yesterday in the mine itself. Last July, members of this committee sent a letter to the Mine Safety and Health Administration, MSHA, requesting that it revise the overly burdensome rule on respirable crystalline silica issued by the Biden-Harris administration in 2024. The mining industry depends on small and mid-sized operators, and several provisions in this final rule placed costly obligations on these businesses, which would likely cause them to close their doors. But the work does not stop there. We must ensure worker protections keep pace. For example, in July of 2025, MSHA created the Compliance Assistance and Safety and Health in Safety and Health, or CASH program, to support the anticipated surge in mining productivity following President Trump's executive orders. MSHA also continues to award millions of dollars in grants to support mine safety and health training across the United States. These investments in safety and health paid off. In 2025, the mining industry experienced its lowest total injury rate in history. While there's been outstanding progress in keeping our workers safe, there's still more work to do. Collaboration between government and private sector leads to safer workplaces, an educated workforce, and a stronger mining industry. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses about ways to unleash the mining industry's potential in a way that protects miners and benefits the communities in which they work and live. Pursuant to Committee Rule 8C, all members who wish to insert written statements into the record may do so by submitting them to the committee clerk electronically in Microsoft Word format by 5 p.m. 14 days after this hearing. And without objection, the hearing record will remain open for 14 days to allow such statements and other extraneous material noted during the hearing to be submitted for the official hearing record. I'll now turn to the introduction of our 4 witnesses. And to do that, I'll start by recognizing Representative Messimer to introduce 2 of our witnesses who are both from the great state of Indiana.
Well, thank you, Chairman, and it's an honor to introduce 2 Hoosiers on this panel today. Mr. Bruce Stevens is president of Resources Services, LLC in Jasonville, Indiana. He brings both private and public sector perspectives on the mining industry, having previously served as president of the Indiana Coal Council and Director of Division of Reclamation in the state Indiana's Department of Natural Resources. Mr. Eric Carter is General Manager of Peabody Energy's underground mine located near Francisco, Indiana. With more than two decades of experience in the mining industry, he has seen firsthand how this sector has evolved and adapted to a variety of changes. I thank them both for their contributions to strengthening our state's mining industry and for testifying today, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Messmer. Our third witness is Mr. Sam Petzonk, owner of Petzonk PLLC in Oak Hill, West Virginia. Welcome. Our last witness, Mr. Arthur Wolfson, partner at Fisher Phillips LLP in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Welcome. We thank our witnesses for being here today. Pursuant to committee rules, I would ask that each of you limit your oral presentation to a 3-minute summary of your written statement, which we have read. The clock will count down from 3 minutes as we have many questions for you. Pursuant to Committee Rule 8D and committee practice, however, will not cut off your testimony until you reach the 5-minute mark. I would also like to remind the witnesses to be aware of their responsibility to provide accurate information to this committee. I'll first recognize Mr. Stevens for your testimony. 5 minutes, you're recorded right now. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Wahlberg, Congressman Messmer. It's indeed an honor to be here. First, I want to welcome you to Vincennes University's Gibson County Center for Advanced Manufacturing Logistics, which is the home of Vincennes University's Mining Training Program, which is the recipient of the Mine Safety and Health Administration's federal grant funding to assist in the training and retraining of Indiana's miners. This institution provides the required training for underground surface miners delivered by instructors with decades of expertise across many aspects of mining. In fact, this facility averages training and retraining nearly 3,000 coal miners each year. The facility is a true gem for Indiana's workforce development efforts, and I encourage you to take a few minutes to see it firsthand if you haven't yet had the opportunity. The classrooms, equipment simulators, and Indiana's only mock underground mine for safety and rescue training speak for themselves. I encourage the committee to ensure that stable mine safety and health grant funding is sustained for state-based mining training programs and request consideration of expanding funding to cover planning, instructor hiring, and upgrading equipment that has evolved technologically. Indiana's coal miners are highly skilled men and women. They work in one of the most highly regulated industries in the nation, subject to state and federal regulatory agencies, including those with jurisdiction over the Mine Safety and Health Act, the Surface Mining Act, the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, and others. Miners today are not producing coal with picks and shovels, but rather with specialized mechanized equipment that requires training and experience to operate. Their specialties span equipment operation, electrical systems, mine safety, welding, computerized controls, and engineering, and they earn high salaries, averaging over $90,000 annually with strong benefits. They are very involved in their communities and quite generous, providing goods for those in schools and communities who may not be as fortunate. These are the kind of people we want in our communities. Unfortunately, the numbers tell a stark story. In 1988, 39 companies were operating 72 coal mines. Last year, 6 companies were operating 9 mines. In 2014, Indiana coal mines produced over 39 million tons of coal, more than any other year. Just 11 years later, in 2025, Indiana produced 18.4 million tons, over a 50% reduction, driven almost entirely by regulatory pressure that forced coal-fueled power plants to close. Some of those regulations were later overturned in court or revised, but the damage was already done. Miners lost good-paying jobs and had to start over, often at lower wages with fewer benefits. The need for coal has never been more urgent. Energy demand is surging due to artificial intelligence, data centers, increased manufacturing, and foreign manufacturers return to the United States, all of which are straining energy supply chains. To attract and maintain these industries, there must be adequate energy available. At a time when consumer costs are rising, our nation needs to prioritize all forms of energy. Coal is a dispatchable, storable, baseload energy source ready to power these sectors. To do so, the utilities must be given certainty that coal will remain available and supported as an energy source, and that regulatory reform will not be undone by a future administration. As Congress mandated in the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act in Section 102F, which directs us to assure that the coal supply essential to the nation's energy requirements and to its economic and social well-being is provided, and strike a balance between protection of the environment and agricultural productivity and the nation's need as an essential source of energy. This mandate originated in 1977 and remains as important today as when it was first written. Thank you again for the opportunity to address the committee, and I look forward to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. I now recognize Mr. Carter for your testimony.
Chairman Walberg, Congressman Messmer, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Eric Carter. I'm currently the General Manager for one of Peabody Energy's underground coal mines here locally in Gibson County. I'm here to testify about the experience with current available workforce and the state of education available for mining practices. In my 32 years, I've gained extensive experience with laws, policies under the Mine Safety and Health Administration and other federal state agencies. It is of my opinion that over time, education standards and certain policies under the Department of Labor have hampered the ability of mining in communities like this. Currently in my community, schools cater primarily to employers outside of the mining industry because it's rarely highlighted as a destination for those graduates. We currently utilize mechanical, electrical, mining, and civil, environmental, and software engineers. Not all high school graduates will attend a college, yet the mining industry still sees opportunities ranging from general labor to managerial positions for any individual with the wherewithal to learn and progress. What we see today in a culture shift among students and individuals who have newly entered the workforce, there does not appear to be a clear or well-promoted pathway for high school graduates to navigate their way into the trades, including mining. We spend a significant amount of time sufficiently training, developing new workers compared to 10 years ago. This new development time is causing problems, delays in production, as well as safety concerns. Most importantly, this kind of shift requires collaboration among the administration, Congress, state partners, and the industry to make sure there is a long-term plan to invest in U.S. mining and to build back a stronger workforce to meet demand. Policies like President Trump's executive order to prepare for high-paying, skilled jobs and the Stronger Workforce for America Act, which was introduced by Chairman Walberg, are much-needed solutions to address the problems in our industry. Perhaps the most pressing challenge is one perception. A career in mining today can mean operating sophisticated equipment and managing complex logistics, working in an environment compliance, or leading teams of skilled professionals. The earning potential is among the highest available to workers without a four-year degree. And the career stability that comes with supplying minerals and energy to the American economy is considerable. Changing this public perception, starting in our schools and communities, is critical to protecting our domestic mining industry. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. I'll now recognize Mr. Petzonk for your testimony.
Thank you, Chairman Walberg and Congressman Messmer. It's an honor to be here. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity. I am Sam Petzonk. I'm a miners health and safety lawyer from West Virginia. I formerly staffed U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd and Cart Goodwin on issues of mine safety. I'm closely familiar with the legislative history of the Mine Act and the appropriations challenges that go along with it. I've represented thousands of coal miners and their families nationwide on health, safety, and economic issues. I want to address two principal issues today. One, the crystalline silica rule that you referenced that was recently set aside by the Mine Safety and Health Administration, and two, the dangers that go along with cutting back on safety budgets, safety agencies, as we face these risks, heightened risks of mining in heavily depleted mineral basins such as Appalachia and the Illinois Basin, including Indiana. So as to the silica rule, the United States has taken 100 years to provide miners with an independently enforceable limit on highly toxic respirable silica dust. We have instituted a breathable silica dust limit for every other major category of American worker, except for the miners who face the most extreme exposures. This is a long overdue matter, I think, in the opinion of, and I see many mine workers who are here today, and working people have known these risks for 100 years. And we all have. It's been well over 50 years since CDC recommended a particular exposure limit that we still haven't put into place. Hundreds, if not thousands, of miners in Appalachia have experienced this extreme sandstone exposure in recent decades. As we mine thinner seams, we have to cut more sandstone, and we are facing what I call a slow-moving hawk's nest disaster. You may remember in the 1930s, hundreds of African-American rock drillers died of acute silicosis in Fayette County. I still practice in that county today, and I just yesterday received a report of a 28-year-old miner with 10 years of mining experience who already has very significant lung function loss from severe silicosis. I've represented 32-year-old miners, 36-year-old miners who are seeking double lung transplants in their early 40s or late 30s from this. This is an urgent issue, and I respect the concerns about the industry and small operators very much. But my purpose here today is to say that the agency that is supposed to protect America's miners has abandoned them in court. The MSHA didn't even ask, the MSHA was sued over the silica rule, but they have not defended it. They could have asked the court to allow the rule to come into force to protect the most vulnerable, and MSHA has not even asked for that. And this committee has an important opportunity to send a message to MSHA that you can protect miners, and you have a duty to do so under the Mine Act. So I hope you will urge the agency to fully restore the silica rule and refine it later. You can work on it, and you should. But secondly, as to the threat of cutting safety while we face these escalating risks in the mines, the government's message is run more coal. And, we've heard that message for a long time in Appalachia, but the risks are growing because in central and eastern United States, our coal basins are substantially depleted. We've been mining for a long time, and you mine the good coal first, and then you have to get what's left over, and we're in that getting what's left over phase right now. And that means we're cutting through unstable high walls. We are dealing with unpredictable methane and extreme respirable dust risk. So my second message here is it's not the time for the administration to be cutting mine safety. And just this week, this administration has reportedly laid off 1/3 of the staff of the Mine Safety and Health Review Commission, shutting down the entire Pittsburgh office, and we now have only 3 administrative law judges nationwide to hear all of the mine enforcement actions in the country, and that's a real problem. By August of this year, with the firings that have just occurred, the administration, the commission will lack a quorum. That means they will not be able to conduct any business at all. And that has happened before, and it's caused major trouble and backlog, which is a problem for mining companies. And you can make sure they appoint a new commissioner to keep that thing operating, please. As to health more broadly, the DOGE effort cut a lot from NIOSH. We've restored a lot of it, but I've addressed in my remarks we have to fully restore the continuous dust monitoring functions. And lastly, I just want to mention that we have legacy commitments to miners. We should pass the Black Lung Benefits Improvement Act. And as I mentioned, look ahead to protect rare earth miners. It's a new industry, and you've got a lot on your hands. I thank you for the opportunity to address it.
Thank you. And now I recognize for his 5 minutes or 3 minutes of testimony, potentially 5, I recognize Mr. Wolfson.
Thank you, and I likewise appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is a first for me and a true honor to sit with my colleagues up here. Brief background about myself. I am a practicing attorney and a partner in the Pittsburgh office of Fisher & Phillips, LLP, and a member of the firm's Workplace Safety and Catastrophe Management Practice Group. My practice focuses on counseling and representing employers with respect to their safety and health regulatory requirements, and I maintain a subspecialty in mine safety and health regulatory requirements. While I practice in all areas of safety and health law, the majority of my practice is in the mine safety and health area, both coal and metal, non-metal types of mines. My mining clients are regulated federally by the Federal Mine Safety and Health Act, commonly referred to as the Mine Act, and the regulations promulgated by MSHA. This is a strict regulatory framework and far exceeds, in terms of the burdens on employers, what general industry faces under OSHA. This is for three primary reasons. Number one, the Mine Act, unlike OSHA, requires mandatory inspections. Number two, MSHA has warrantless inspection authority, unlike OSHA. And number three, mine operators are strictly liable for any violations at their mine site. They do not enjoy the defenses that employers in general industry enjoy under the OSHA scheme. However, within this framework, there are several opportunities to improve the regulatory landscape while still achieving the goals of the Mine Act. First, the Mine Act should include a pattern of compliance incentive that would stand opposite of the pattern of violations sanction. The pattern of violations sanction is reserved for mine operators with a demonstrated history of certain types of safety and health violations. It has been said that it's reserved for, quote unquote, the bad actors. Correspondingly, there should be a performance-based incentive for the best of the good actors, which would relieve regulatory burden for mine operators with a demonstrated history of compliance. OSHA offers such an incentive to employers in the form of the Voluntary Protection Program, which relieves potential regulatory burden under OSHA. This would require, however, a statutory change under the Mine Act, and the committee should consider it. Second, the MSHA enforcement scheme should reward and not punish mine operators who exceed minimum regulatory requirements. Presently, mine operators frequently exceed the measures required by MSHA's regulations, but can be cited for those very measures they take, and oftentimes those citations carry with them the elevated, significant, and substantial designation, commonly referred to as SNS, and MSHA frequently ignores the safety benefits provided by these measures that exceed their own regulations. Finally, MSHA should undertake rulemaking to clarify key terms. There are far too many vague terms in the MSHA enforcement scheme with too much gray area, which does not benefit either mine operators, miners, or MSHA. There are numerous examples of vague terms, but I have highlighted two of them in my written testimony. First is, again, significant and substantial, or S&S, which is an elevated designation reserved for more serious violations. MSHA should undertake rulemaking and make a clear and workable definition of S&S, specifically that an S&S designation is based on the particular facts and circumstances of the violation at issue, which present a discrete hazard and a meaningful degree of likelihood that the hazard would occur. Second, MSHA should undertake rulemaking to clarify the term an injury with a reasonable potential to cause death, which thereby requires mine operators to report these types of incidents to MSHA within 15 minutes. A bright line definition for what constitutes such an injury would be beneficial to both mine operators, miners, and MSHA. The absence of a clear definition leaves too much room for guesswork, particularly when such prompt operator action is needed. These are two examples of many that MSHA could undertake to provide clearer terms for the regulated community. I welcome your questions.
Thank you for your comments. Under Committee Rule 9, we'll now question witnesses under the 5-minute rule. I recognize Mr. Messmer for the purpose of questioning witnesses. Mr. Messmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to Vincennes University for hosting this important hearing. Indiana is one of America's most important coal-producing states. Many of Indiana's communities, including this one here in Gibson County, are built on coal mining. The mining industry also is facing a harsh reality. In addition to regulatory burdens that operators must bear, the industry has a growing workforce shortage. Vincennes University is taking steps to address this worker shortage by training future generations of industry leaders. Workers must be equipped to meet the demands of an evolving industry. Preparing workers to perform their jobs safely and effectively is only part of the challenge. That's why safety training must be an essential component of any training program instilling a lasting culture of safety. With that, Mr. Stevens, you mentioned the many companies providing goods and services in the mining industry in your testimony. Can you explain what type of companies these are and how they impact and rely on the coal mining industry?
Certainly, thank you for the question. It was mentioned I was president of the Indiana Coal Council for a number of years. That was a trade association for the coal industry here in Indiana. We had about 100 members, sometimes over 100 members. 8 or 10 of those were producing members. A couple of them were large reserve holding members. 90% of them were companies that provided goods and services to the industry. With the decrease in the number of mines, the decrease in production, those companies have been harmed. They are companies such as equipment and repair are very large ones, transportation, both over the road and railroads, materials for the mining industry, such as the roof bolts and cribbings and conveyors and such, belting that you all saw yesterday. Another thing is that last year there were coal mines only in 6 Indiana counties. In 1988, they were in 13 counties. So there were a lot more companies providing goods and services. Distance has harmed them, as well. So it's a big impact not only to the coal miner itself, but to those providing goods and services. And it's said that for every coal mining job, there are 3 or more indirect jobs that go along with that. I think 3 is a low number with respect to that, but that is a snapshot of those type of companies that have been harmed.
Thank you. Also, in your written testimony, you described the significant, job losses to the Indiana's coal sector. Why are these jobs so difficult to replace once they disappear?
Well, the first item I would say is that coal miners are highly trained, highly skilled individuals, and they command a good salary, as I mentioned, averaging over $90,000 a year, and many making more than that. They have very, very strong benefits, and jobs in the rural areas of the state are difficult to match that. There may be jobs, but unfortunately, when a mine closes, a worker has to face a choice of whether they're going to relocate or whether they're going to accept a lower paying job, which has long-term impacts on families and particularly communities.
Thank you. Mr. Carter, how do you recruit talent for your mines?
Currently, talent is recruited through various television ads, newspaper ads, so forth, contractor, supply companies. Very low-skilled workers come to the mines. They go through extensive training programs that are required by MSHA as well as our organizations. So the experience of skills required in today's workforce, it's highly required for the mining industry, but workers that are trained in other fields can easily adapt to the mining industry with their current and skill level. These individuals can bring a strong work ethic, very cultured safety background, as well as familiarity with regulated industrial environments with targeted training and upskilling. These capabilities can be efficiently applied to mining careers.
Thank you. Anything we can do to eliminate the stigma of a career in mining for the next generation?
I think removing the stigma surrounding the mining industry starts with better communication about the workers and the mining actually looks like today. Too often the perceptions are rooted in outdated images or failed to reflect the industry's strong safety culture and advanced technology and commitment to environmental stewardship. By highlighting the wide range of highly skilled roles and use of automation and data analytics, the clear career pathways for advancement, we can better demonstrate mining offers a stable, well-paying careers that align with many existing industrial and technical skills. When students, workers, communities understand these skills are transferable to mining and supported by ongoing training and innovation that helps reduce misconceptions and informed awareness and respect for the energy.
Thank you, and with that, I yield back.
I thank the gentleman from Indiana. Now I give myself my 5 minutes of questioning. And again, thank you for the witnesses for being here. Mr. Wolfson, as you noted in your written testimony, you support MSHA creating a regulatory system that rewards mine workers who exceed their regulatory obligations in keeping their workers safe. You mentioned VPP, Voluntary Protection Program that OSHA has, which you don't have. Can you provide some examples of common industry practices that go beyond the requirements of MSHA's policies?
Sure. Mining operators routinely provide both protections and practices that exceed what is required by the MSHA standards. There are certainly trainings that mine operators undertake that exceed what is required by Part 48 or Part 46, both in frequency and substance. There is equipment. I've provided the examples of shielded cables on underground coal, mobile equipment. There are proximity detection systems on underground coal equipment other than continuous miners, which is all that's currently required to have a proximity detection system. There are cameras on mobile equipment that frequently isn't required. And mine operators invest a lot of money and time and resources to provide these types of measures for the safety of their workers and for the betterment of their operations.
Thank you. Mr. Carter, thank you for putting up with us yesterday in the mine and bringing us out as well. I also appreciate your support of my bill, H.R. 8210, the Stronger Workforce for America Act of 2026, or the reauthorized legislation that takes an all-of-the-above plan and approach for workforce training. When it comes to mining, what does an all-of-the-above approach to worker development and training look like?
I think an all-above approach to workforce development in mining industries requires coordinated policy support, strong industry participation across all full talent pipelines. This includes leveraging existing federal workforce programs such as the WIOA, alongside industry-led training, registered apprenticeships, partnerships with community colleges and technical schools. To ensure curriculum aligned with real-world mining needs, it also needs support in incumbent worker training so current employees can adapt to advances in automation, safety systems, and data-driven operations. From an industry perspective, this approach would allow operators to develop skilled, reliable workforce while giving workers access to long-term, high-quality careers. When policy and industry work in tandem, workforce development becomes a strategic tool that strengthens productivity, safety, and domestic supply chain.
It's constant upgrading, isn't it?
Yes.
It never ends. I appreciate that. Mr. Stevens, mining has historically been a crucial part of this state's economic and industrial development. What role should the government play in partnering with the private sector to sustain mining industry's economic importance and long-term stability?
Yeah, thank you, sir. As I mentioned, this facility is a real testament to the partnership that the federal government can have with learning institutions. It plays a very critical role with funding, such as MSHA's training grant, which Vincennes University receives annually. What is necessary is some stability going forward. There needs to be stable multi-year funding. So training programs, which you will see if you have not already, there is a lot of equipment. There's a lot of needs. There's the need to hire competent instructors and such. So stable multi-year funding would be very welcome. And then there's also opportunity for apprenticeships in mining. As Mr. Carter referenced, I don't believe that some schools are, I don't believe they are steering anyone away from a career in coal, but I don't think they're really directing them toward it either. And there needs to be an understanding that today's coal miner is a highly technically competent individual who can be in many, many different fields, and make certain that the opportunity is there for them to find jobs in the coal mining industry.
Thank you. My time has expired, but unless there's objection, I'll take a chairman's personal prerogative. We have a witness here that was identified for us by the Democrats on our committee. And Mr. Petsank, you've come a long way, and I appreciate you being here. Normally, Democrats would be asking you questions, but since they chose not to be here, and I'm disappointed with that, I'm going to ask you a question to make it worth your while here. Plus, I think you and I discussed a little bit before we came out here. You highlighted considerations we should take into account regarding rare earth minerals and the mining that will have to take place if we're going to be found in that realm, which we need to be. Can you briefly yes, describe what some of those considerations might be?
Thank you. This is an industry that has not matured in the United States. We are looking at producing rare earth minerals through traditional mining, pit mining, perhaps underground mining. There is also an interest in what essentially something similar to fracking, which is called in situ leaching. The health risks, there can be potential exposures there that have not been well studied in the United States. And so my question for MSHA for years now really has been, where is the science that will inform our enforcement efforts? And NIOSH and MSHA should be developing that so that we have the ability to identify the protective standards. And the International Labor Affairs Bureau of DOL has done some initial outreach in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where most of the cobalt mining happens internationally. There's rare earths, there's cobalt, there's lithium, there's a variety of new battery inputs, but we should be studying them and lay a groundwork for regulating. And I appreciate your attention to that very much. It's an emerging issue and that you can really make an impact. Thank you.
Well, it's a real world issue, and there are wars developed around all of that. So, yes. So thank you for those insights. I now will move to a second round of questioning, and I recognize the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Messmer, to begin that round.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wolfson, in your written testimony, you call for establishing a Federal Mine Safety and Health Act, establishing a pattern of compliance designation. What do you believe this added benefit is in creating this kind of incentive program would accomplish?
The benefit would be to provide mine operators with the freedom to meet their safety and health obligations through different avenues, not just by the prescriptive enforcement method currently set forth by MSHA. Sure, mine operators would still be required to meet the standards set forth by MSHA, but currently the way in which we evaluate whether they've done so is through strict and heavy enforcement by MSHA inspectors. The OSHA example provides another path through which OSHA does through its VPP, which would be a performance-based program by which mine operators could demonstrate that they are complying with leading indicators for safety rather than just strict enforcement. And if they meet those measures, then they could achieve some level of relief from the enforcement burden that they currently face from MSHA.
Okay. And you commented that mine operators get cited for exceeding minimum standards. Can you give me some examples of how they get cited for doing things that already exceed the standards?
Sure. So earlier, with respect to Mr. Wahlberg's question, I offered some examples of some items that mine operators commonly use that exceed the requirements of the MSHA standards. If conditions were to exist on those items that are not required, that could subject mine operators to additional citations, which goes on their compliance history for an item that they're not even required to have. But probably even more concerning than that is that frequently these citations carry with it a significant and substantial, or S&S designation, which is detrimental to the mine's compliance history and can lead to further sanctions. It seems counterintuitive to subject mine operators to enhanced enforcement with respect to items that they're not even required to have. And in contrast, MSHA should recognize the additional safety measures that these items provide and consider that in the enforcement program.
Thank you. And will all of those changes need statutory changes, or can any be done by rule?
The pattern of compliance designation would require a statutory change, because presently Section 103A of the Mine Act requires that all surface mines be inspected twice per year and underground 4 times per year. So that would require a statutory change. In terms of MSHA's approach to the non-required items that exceed its standards, that would not require a statutory change, and frankly wouldn't even require a rule. It could be subject to a rule, but it could also just be met by a change in how MSHA does business.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, many in the view mining industry as was decades or centuries ago, but in your testimony you make a point out that this is an industry that demands innovative approaches and highly specialized skills. How are schools, apprenticeship programs, or other training opportunities adopting to meet these demands as the industry evolves?
Thank you, sir. Unfortunately, you're absolutely correct in the statement that absolutely many people have a bad perception of coal mining at this point. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, some still view it as miners with picks and shovels going underground every day and loading coal in that manner. And miners work hard. They are absolutely some of the hardest working people that there are. But the operations today, they're highly technical, they're safety driven, they rely on advanced equipment. Automation is amazing in the mining realm these days, and skilled trades as well. So mining needs to be understood that it's modern and that it's stable, and that a person can earn a well-compensated career. So expanding training programs, apprenticeships and partnerships with high schools and technical institutions would help. There are a lot of skilled jobs at the coal mines. If those high school students had the opportunity to learn and then have the potential to go into another program, welding is a great example. There's a great need for welders, not just in coal mining, but in many sectors. A high school student with a background in welding could come to Vincennes University, which has an excellent welding program as well, and continue to learn their skill, or they could go straight to the mine and learn their skill there. So we really do need to focus on changing the perception, and there needs to be an emphasis in schools that there is still a career path in coal mining and aggregate mining, other forms of mining as well.
Thank you, and with that I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. Mr. Stevens, returning to you, while we're discussing workforce development and workforce safety, there are dozens of other policy areas that also have a large impact on determining the success of mining industry, such as investing in technology, infrastructure, permitting reform, tax incentives, and we could go on and on. What policies and initiatives such as these would have the greatest effect in expanding and improving mining operations?
Yes, thank you. Consistent regulatory frameworks.
Define consistent. No, don't do it.
I'd be here all day, wouldn't I? Are of much importance. There absolutely has got to be certainty going forward. Permitting reform, which was mentioned, that is of huge importance. the goalposts can't be moved. There has to be consistency. When an applicant goes with the same type of application for the same area, the things don't need to be changed from application to application. There needs to be specific time frames that an agency must perform within. Some are very good, others are unfortunately very bad, and it takes a huge amount of time, and that drives up costs tremendously, and it's very hard to get investors whenever you can't go and say, we have our permits. Sometimes it takes years to get some of the federal permits, and that's just really uncalled for. And as I mentioned as well, there are many utility regulations that are being looked at right now at federal EPA and such, and within Congress. You know, utilities are the coal company's customer. The utilities have to feel as though they're not going to be regulated out of business, and any initiatives in regard to giving them a comfort level that has them to endorse coal more so even than what they do would be very welcome.
Have them speak truth to power about what the real needs are, right? Yes, sir. I often think how much good AI has the potential doing in permitting reform, in bumping up the time frame by not going through the same exercises over and over again. So thank you. Mr. Carter, your written testimony discusses the variety of high-skilled jobs that are part of your industry, and the broad perspective that's there as well, and opportunities that you have. Yet many students may not know about these opportunities. Could you tell us where you're seeing the greatest demand for high-skilled jobs, and how we can better promote these opportunities to students and individuals working outside of the mining industry?
Currently, the biggest opportunity for high-skilled jobs is in the engineering fields, whether it be mining, civil, electrical, or mechanical engineering, as well as software engineers. Those roles in the industry are growing rapidly and are really needed to progress the mines with the new technical data that comes along. All the equipment has evolved to a specific point where it requires a very high skill set, and those individuals can earn very high amount of money doing those jobs. As Arthur mentioned earlier, there are mines that have equipment, cameras and so forth associated with equipment that's not required. So it takes a highly skilled, highly trained person with ability to gain more knowledge to work on these pieces of specialized equipment. So as far as to better promote the opportunities, we need stronger partnerships between the industry, education providers, workforce agencies to ensure students transitioning to workers understand how their skills align with mining. Increased exposure through career technical education, apprenticeships, internships, and outreach to workers in manufacturing, construction, and energy can help demonstrate these skills were transferable to mining. Clear pathways and visibility into long-term advancement opportunities are key to attracting talent in both traditional and non-traditional backgrounds.
Thank you. In the few seconds I have remaining, I'm going to take the risk, Mr. Wilson, of asking you this question, where you're seeing the greatest demand for high-skilled, in reference to what this committee did last year in submitting a letter to MSHA calling for revisions to the 2024 rule on respirocrystalline silica so that the rule better aligns with reality that's out there. How do you believe harmonizing MSHA policies with policies set for general industry by OSHA would benefit the mining industry?
Well, it would put the mining industry on an even playing field with general industry. Currently, the MSHA silica rule that was promulgated in 2024 does not allow mine operators to meet a level of compliance with certain measures that general industry enjoys, such as respiratory protection, rotation of miners, and through alternative means that certain OSHA regulated employers enjoy through Table 1, it would provide the same level of protection for miners while allowing mining employers to meet their obligations through a variety of ways, the same as those employers regulated by OSHA enjoy.
Okay, thank you. Again, taking the time of the Democrat members who aren't here, Mr. Petsonk, I'd like to discuss your written testimony discusses emergency risks in the mining industry, as our Workforce Protection Subcommittee will hold a hearing on emergency safety issues next week. Can you offer briefly your perspective on what those emergency issues in mining might be?
Thank you again, Chairman Wahlberg. Just on last week, the Office of the Inspector General from the Department of Labor issued a report affecting or addressing MSHA's accident investigations and emergency response capacity in the industry. I would urge the committee to look at that report. It was disturbing to me that the Inspector General found MSHA had only documented an accident investigation for 3% of the accidents that merited scrutiny. So MSHA is failing to investigate 97% of the concerning accidents right now, according to the Inspector General. I hope that you'll follow up about that. MSHA has the budgetary. I appreciate that Congress is trying to protect this agency's budget, and you've done that, and that's important. But within the budget they have, we've got to ensure that they are conducting what is called impact inspections to identify and go after persistent violators. That is a rational way of targeting risk. And also there's an internal auditing process to ensure that accidents are accurately reported. We'd like to see more internal auditing within MSHA to ensure that accidents and illnesses are accurately reported. So looking at the Inspector General's report would go a long way, and if you could ask the agency to focus on sustaining its impact inspections and its what are known as Part 50 audits to ensure accurate reporting. Those are all good practices I think would benefit the industry.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Seeing that the time for questioning has expired, I'd like to thank all the witnesses again for testifying before the committee today. I'd like to thank the audience for being here as well. We don't do these field hearings just so we can be away from home in our districts. You're in your district, but had other members come, including myself, we're away from the district. But these are crucial issues we really want to address. And that's why we have a bipartisan effort to do that very thing. We're not trying to hide anything in this process. We respect the mining industry. I think Representative Messmer and I both will say that very strongly. Both having been in mines around this country and now most recently here in Indiana, it's crucial that mining not simply be sustained, but given a future that it advances and increases. And we talk about rare earth minerals, we talk about hard rock mining, but I, for one, believe having a huge coal-fired plant in my district, second largest in North America, on Lake Erie, that's producing power even during polar vortexes. I'm not sure if you get that down here, southern Indiana, but we sure do in Michigan. To have weeks and weeks of coal piles there ready to be useful, to providing energy for all of the resources that need energy is important. We intend to keep looking into this issue. It is our purposes in the majority to build upon an economy, but to make sure that the mining industry has an economy that grows as well. We want to make sure that safety is there, but that creative tension that can be there, brought about by the miners themselves, the union representatives, where necessary, bring about those concerns. We're always willing to listen. But there's a creative tension also. We want to keep mines operating. We want the industry to survive and thrive. And as businesses, there are those challenges that we have to consider as well for the industry so it's strong. We also know, bottom line, it touches families. It touches the economy not simply of the country or region. It touches the personal economy of families that expect that paycheck to carry on their needs and make a future for their families as well. All of that is within the purpose of this committee and our subcommittee dealing in that area as well. So I appreciate the fact that we've had this opportunity today to be here and that you've joined us. I want to say a special thank you to Vincennes University for giving us a great space here. And now we look forward to a virtual experience of mine safety training as well. That is very uniquely located here. We thank Peabody Mining Operations for giving us real-world opportunity. Though I'm not sure you're ready to hire, well, maybe to hire Representative Messmer. And that's another thing, to have a member of my committee who actually comes from a district that has significant mining operations across the spectrum is very important. I think we have one Democrat member who has significant mining operations that we wish could have been here as well to represent. And maybe in the future we can make that happen. But we appreciate being in your district, the hospitality you've given, and the pounds I put on with good food from your district as well. With that, having no further business to be heard at this time, the committee stands adjourned.